assessed across the program, so not just course learning outcomes, but program learning outcomes. And then how do colleges use the results of those assessments to make improvements to teaching and learning, helping students document their learning beyond a course indicated on a transcript. And then college offers professional development to improve practices in teaching and learning. Along with those essential practices, we have equity considerations, and we'll touch on this a little bit more when we get to the advanced work assignment, specifically the scale of adoption assessment. But the equity considerations that go into ensure that students are learning include participating, whether students from underrepresented groups are participating in active and experiential learning. Is the college supporting changes to pedagogy to support the learning of underrepresented students? Is the college focused on equity-minded teaching and advising? And then does the college disaggregate their student learning outcome data, program learning outcome data to see the different outcomes for different student groups? At this institute, we have 3 pre-institute sessions. So you'll see them listed here. First, 2 representatives from the Higher Education Coordinating Board are presenting a session about fields of study. Our friends at the Charles A. Dana Center are presenting a session on differentiated instruction, so how to support the learning of every student and incorporate formative assessment. Then SOVA, some of you may know Allison Cadlack, is presenting a session on authentic faculty engagement and student success reform. Attendance is limited for these, so please make sure you sign up. There is a full description of each session on our registration portal and on the draft agenda that is now posted on the event web page in the Success Center website. All of these sessions run from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on April 24th. Lunch is included, and like I said, you must register to attend these sessions because space is limited. Without getting into the entire schedule, we thought we'd hit the highlights about our daily start and end time. So on April 24th, the plenary opens at 2. Remember, those pre-institute sessions go from 10 to 1. So our full institute begins at 2 o'clock with an opening plenary. Team strategy session concludes at 5:45, and then we host a reception from 6 to 7 p.m. Dinner is on your own that evening. On April 25th, we start at 9. Team strategy session ends at 5, and again, dinner is on your own. And then on April 26th, we start at 9 and we adjourn at noon. I'm going to turn it over now to my colleague, Johanna, who will talk about process and payment for registration.
Okay, so Pathways leads should have received an email with 7 complimentary codes to distribute to their teams. These codes will waive the registration fee and add these attendees to our master hotel bill. Additional team members may register to attend without a code, but will be charged a $300 registration fee and will be responsible for their hotel costs. Please note that registration and hotel for the additional attendees is first come, first serve. So if you do plan on bringing additional guests, please make sure to get them registered ASAP. Colleges are responsible for the cost of travel to and from the Institute. This includes airfare, mileage, taxis or rideshare services, parking at the hotel, and meals not provided. In addition, any attendees who plan to check in the night of April 23rd are responsible for the cost of hotel for that night, and the contracted rate for that night is $185. So here's a breakdown of the meals that we do provide. On Wednesday, April 24th, we do provide lunch for registered attendees of the pre-institute sessions. On the 25th, we provide breakfast and lunch, and on the 26th, we provide breakfast. Okay. So now we're going to go over the registration process pretty quickly. The registration link was included in the email that was sent to the leads. So once you're on the home page, you click Register Now. On the next page, you're going to enter the information or enter your information on the invitee information page. On the registration type, you'll want to select college team member or team lead. And this is even if you're an additional member without a code, you can go ahead and choose that so that we lump your team together when we're doing name tags. Okay. You'll then be asked to complete your personal information, including dietary restrictions and special accommodations. And then here on the next page, you're given the opportunity to select one of our 3 optional pre-institute sessions that begin at 10 on the first day of the Institute. Please keep in mind that we do provide lunch and space is limited, so you must register. Before you're able to continue to registration, you do need to select one. If you do not plan on attending, that's that last option there. So please do let us know what you do plan on attending. Okay, here is where you will be asked if you have a complimentary registration code. If you were given a code by your lead, you will hit yes here, and Katie's going to go over what to do if you don't have a code in just a bit. Okay, this next page provides you with the hotel information. The system has auto-populated the 2 nights that we're covering. If you need to adjust your stay, you need to do so manually. But again, if you do check in on the night of the 23rd, you're responsible for that night's cost, which is $185. Okay, and then you get the registration summary, which just details all of your selections. Please review this information before continuing to make sure it's correct. The final page you'll see is a submit payment page. Here is where you will enter your complimentary code. Once you enter it, that $300 registration fee is going to go away. You then hit the red finish button, and that's the end of your registration. You will receive a confirmation to the email address that you provided at the beginning of the registration process. In a lot of cases, it has been going to spam or junk, so you check there if you don't see it. The hotel will send you a separate hotel confirmation after registration has closed later on in April, so please be on the lookout for that. And now Katie's going to go over registration for additional attendees and making changes to or modifying or canceling your registration.
Okay, so if you plan on bringing an additional attendee, they will follow the same registration instructions Johanna mentioned until they arrive at the hotel request page. They will select no, as they were not provided a complimentary code, and will be prompted at the end of registration to book their hotel. Additional attendees will also be prompted to pay the $300 registration fee via PayPal before finalizing their registration. Once registration is complete, additional attendees will be prompted to book their hotel room. This is what this screen will look like when doing so. When booking, please be sure to select the dates of our Institute, April 24th through the 26th. Please note that only those without a code will need to complete this step. Lastly, please do let us know if you plan on sharing a room with someone. Send us an email. If you find that you need to modify your registration, you will need to locate your registration confirmation email. As Johanna mentioned, this email may have ended up in your spam mailbox, so please be sure to check there if you can't find it. Upon locating that email, identify your confirmation number, which is listed in the email. Scroll down to the bottom and click on the link to modify your registration. Your internet browser will then pull up your registration information. At the top, you will find a button that will allow you to modify your registration or unregister entirely. If you find that you need to unregister, please be sure to click Finish to ensure your registration is canceled. All right, a few important dates. Hotel confirmations will be sent by the hotel after registration closes on April 10th. Refunds will not be issued after April 10th, and the deadline for name changes is April 17th. This includes name changes in the event that you are unable to attend and want to send in a substitute. If that's the case with that name change, please go ahead and send us an email right there, success@tac.org. And I'm now going to pass it back to Christy, who will go over advanced work.
Thank you, Johanna and Katie. And okay, we already have a question. If a team member unregisters, can the code be assigned to a new member?
Yes, it can. Once you've unregistered, that code should work for someone else. If you have any problems with that, please send us an email at success@tac.org, but we have had that happen in the past without any issues.
Great, thank you. So if you do have any additional questions, if your team hasn't registered yet, or if you do need to make modifications later, please do not hesitate to contact us. And that success email is the best way to get in touch because we have multiple people responding to that and we can get back to you pretty quickly. All right, now on to the real fun stuff, advanced work and the assignments that you have for this institute. So if you are accustomed to our system, since we have implemented our new website after we used that in the previous institute, then you can find the event page by going to tac.org/TSC or just the tac.org homepage and then clicking Success Center. And then once you're on the Success Center page that has the green stripe, then click on Events and you will see a page that looks like this with upcoming events. They are listed chronologically, and Texas Pathways Institute number 6 is there. Click into that, and you will see something that looks like this. So this lists the date, the location, the Success Center email. We also have on here resources. There's a draft agenda up there, and we will continue to update that agenda as we make final decisions on concurrent sessions and receive descriptions from our presenters. So do check back for an updated version of that later. We also have some optional advanced readings that we'll talk about a little bit later. And then down at the bottom, you see a table with multiple tabs. There's a tab for each cadre and then a tab for presentations. There are no presentations listed yet, but as we receive those presentations from folks who are giving plenary and concurrent presentations, we will put the files on that tab so that you can have them as you attend the institute if you want to pull that up and follow along on your own device. And we do suggest that folks bring along a laptop or a tablet. You'll also see on this page a link to the Document Center. This is how you will submit your advanced work and later your short-term action plans. By submitting it here, it goes into a database on our website and your coach can log in and retrieve it directly. It eliminates the problem of things getting lost in email. So we found that this system is working pretty well, so please do submit your work directly to the Document Center. There are 3 assignments for advanced work. The first is the Scale of Adoption Assessment. Second is a worksheet about mapping pathways learning. And then third, colleges will conduct either focus groups or interviews. And we'll go into detail on each one of those right now. So first is the Scale of Adoption Assessment. This is the one that most of you have seen before. We last did the Scale of Adoption around Institute 3. So this is the instrument that was originally developed by the Community College Research Center on which your college will indicate its progress on implementing pathways practices at scale. You'll see the rating system here at the top and then a little sample of the worksheet. In addition to checking the box about where you are, whether that's planning to scale, at scale, not occurring yet, you will type in your progress briefly, the term that you reach scale or that you are engaging in scaling, and then what your next steps are and your timeline for implementing those next steps. A new addition from CCRC is equity considerations. For each dimension, you will see one of these blue boxes that includes questions for you to consider as you report on your progress and next steps related to the essential practices within that dimension. So these are not questions to answer separately necessarily, but things to review, think about, and as you're writing about your progress and next steps, address some of these issues. So for example, the first one, are the college's website and program pages easy to navigate and understand for students and families without prior experiences in higher ed? So again, you don't need to necessarily write out your response to that, but if that gets you thinking, oh, I think that families who aren't internet savvy are going to have trouble finding this, what do we need to do? And it spurs your next steps. And please do include some of that in your Scale of Adoption Assessment. Another new addition for this time is the opportunity to go into more detail with narrative. So we ask about 3 topics with each dimension, so you'll get these 4 times. You'll be asked to describe the external partnerships you have with other stakeholders. So this could be P12 partners, transfer universities, employers, community organizations. So within that dimension, like the mapping pathways, so who are you working with to get that done? If you could describe that briefly, then it adds some context to your work. And then giving colleges an opportunity to brag about their successes. We want to know what you're most proud of, what you think was your best accomplishment or multiple accomplishments in that dimension. So please share what you think is going well and what's successful, and then also take a moment and share with us some of the challenges that you're experiencing. So you might hit on this a little bit in the next steps, but let us know what kind of barriers you're facing. We want to be able to support you the best way we can, and having this information does allow us to better understand the situation on the ground at your college. The second advanced work assignment is the Mapping Pathways Learning worksheet, and this addresses a couple of the dimensions of guided pathways. So first, within ensuring students are learning, we're looking at Essential Practice 4A that deals with the alignment of program learning outcomes with education and employment goals, and then Essential Practice 4C, the assessment of program learning outcomes across the program. And that ties into how the programs are designed, so reaching back into Dimension 1, mapping pathways to student end goals, and the essential practices of designing the program to align it with outcomes, and then mapping those programs clearly. So we're touching on all of these essential practices with the understanding that Pathways is a systemic, integrated change and way to restructure the institution. If your college has redesigned at least one associate degree program, and we believe that nearly all colleges have done this, we have a few very new participants in Pathways who may not have gotten to this point yet, but most of your colleges have redesigned at least one program. On this worksheet, you are asked to list the programs that you've redesigned and then choose one associate degree program. You'll provide before and after maps. This isn't anything you necessarily have to create. It could be the catalog page for that program from a previous year and then from this year, or maybe an old advising guide and the current advising guide. Take a couple minutes to describe the changes you've made. So for example, if you've eliminated a course, replaced a course, moved a course into a different semester, give us a little understanding and context and rationale for why you made those changes. Then we provide a chart for you to map program learning outcomes. For Cadres 1 and 2, we also ask you to map your general education learning outcomes, and then describe how that program aligns with on-ramps and education employment goals, where you think you might be able to continue to improve the program, and then how you communicate the outcomes of that program to your students. So to share a little bit more, these sample charts are on the worksheet itself. So again, this is a sample, and what your college looks like may be very different from this. But here is a plan for an associate in applied science and hotel and restaurant specialization. You'll see that there are 5 program learning outcomes. So you'll write in what those program learning outcomes are, and then on the right side of the chart, indicate in which courses students are learning the skills that are associated with that outcome. And this is an abbreviated chart. We know that not all courses that comprise this program are listed in that right column. Then again, for Cadres 1 and 2, you will map out your general education learning outcomes, where that happens within either gen ed courses or program courses, or both within that program. So again, list your general education learning outcomes specific to your college in that left side, and then on the right, the courses associated with the skills and with those outcomes. If your college has not yet redesigned an associate degree program, we're going to ask you to think about how you're going to engage in that work. So which programs do you think you'll start with in the redesign process? What outcomes will you address? How will you know that those are the correct outcomes? How will you assess that? And how might you change your current assessment strategy? How are you going to engage faculty and other stakeholders in this process? And then what potential challenges might you face throughout the mapping process and assessment of learning outcomes? The third advanced work assignment would be student focus groups and interviews. And you'll see here, as well as in the guide that's posted on the website, that there are different assignments for different cadres. So for Cadre 1, we ask you to conduct a focus group with up to 10 students. For Cadre 2, focus group with 3 to 5 students. Cadre 3, a focus dyad with 2 students or 2 individual interviews. And then Cadre 4, 1 individual interview. If you would like to complete the work associated with a higher level cadre, you're welcome to do that. So if instead of doing 2 interviews, we want to go ahead and jump in and do a focus group, then you're certainly welcome to do that. But please do remember to keep focus groups to 10 students or fewer, just to maintain effective communication patterns within the group. We're looking at doing focus groups and interviews so that we can better understand students' experiences, and I'm sure that many of you hear from students all the time about their experiences, but this is a method that allows you to collect that data in a different way and have a very focused conversation with designated questions to get more information from students or different kinds of information than they might otherwise share. The qualitative data you learn will complement the quantitative data that we often see through things like key performance indicators or even the scale of adoption. We're not really learning about the student's experience when we talk about how many colleges are at scale and that kind of thing. The guide that's posted online on the events page does include information and tools that are helpful as you plan and conduct focus groups and interviews. For example, there's an invitation template, a consent form template, the protocol listing questions and topics, and a student profile sheet. All that said, some of your colleges probably already have procedures for conducting interviews and focus groups. So before you jump in and begin with this, please do check with your institutional research department. Learn if you have a consent form already that is common for your college to give to students when they do engage in these kinds of activities. And if so, then please go ahead and use your college's form and supplement with questions or however you see a best fit with the materials here. But do check to see what kind of processes and procedures are already in place at your institution. After you conduct the focus group or the interview, then we ask for a brief 2 to 3 page report in which you'll discuss what the student shared about their experience, how the student's experience compares to the services that you have designed. So for example, if you say orientation is mandatory, everybody went through it and they did a career assessment at orientation, and your student says, I didn't know that you had orientation and I haven't done a career assessment. So that'll tell you something about the student experience versus the design. Where were your assumptions or understandings confirmed or contradicted? Where do you see additional need for reform? Which reforms seem like they're effective from the experience of the student or the multiple students you speak with? And then where might you further investigate the student experience based on this conversation? Advanced work is due April 10th, 2 weeks before the Institute, to give your coaches time to review and become familiar with what's going on at your campus. And then you will submit that in the Document Center on the website. The advanced work may be shared with our funding partners. They are deeply invested in this work and they care about what is happening at colleges with students and how you all are working hard to improve outcomes for students. And so we may share some of your work with them to demonstrate your good work. There are a couple of advanced readings that you saw in that screenshot earlier. These are optional. One is a reading with research sponsored by the Teagle Foundation about curricular coherence. So how are faculty working to design programs so that the curriculum aligns across the program and the learning outcomes are reinforced across the program. So a key element of guided pathways. And then understanding the needs of part-time faculty. And this resource is a pretty interesting one in that the Community College Research Center also included a survey with that if you wanted to choose to administer that survey with your part-time or adjunct faculty to learn more about their experience and their needs at your college. So both the research brief and the survey are included on that events page. Final reminder of deadlines. April 10th is a big one. There are a few things that are either due or that's the final deadline for. So advanced work is due. Registration for the Institute closes. That is the final day for refunds. If your college has paid for an additional participant and that turns out that person can't go, that is the last day to request a refund. And we're not doing that to be cruel. We're doing that because we have to submit our final numbers to the hotel on food and beverage. And so we are paying for all the participants who are registered on that date. So please, if you anticipate any changes, then do your best to get your final list in no later than April 10th. And then April 17th is that last day to change a name in case you need to substitute someone. I don't see any new questions in the chat, but if you have additional questions, we would be happy to address any of those. And remember, you can also contact us at the success@tac.org email. All right, I see no additional questions, so we are going to, oh, there's one. Good job, Kelly, getting it in. When will we know which proposals are accepted? So we will announce the concurrent session proposal selection by March 15th. So it will be next week when we announce that, if not before, but March 15th is the last day that we would announce that. You're welcome. All right, well, thanks everybody, and we look forward to seeing you in April in San Antonio, if not before. And if your friends and colleagues missed out on this webinar, then we'll post the slides and the recording online later this afternoon. Thanks a lot.